was, I think, the opposite of mine.
Yeah, we're kind of mixing the two. Mine was just about the positives of being a digital nomad. Because I do think there's, like, we've mentioned some pessimistic stuff, also some realistic stuff, and I think there's lots of optimistic things that we could include as well, like the change of scenery can literally change your life, your perspective, and what the things that you value. Because I mean, just from my experience moving to Malta in the last 6 months and living here, I have lived in a Mediterranean country before with similar temperatures, but actually living somewhere outside of your comfort zone as an adult firstly changes your perspective on a lot of things. The level of convenience plays a big part in your life. You start taking things for granted a lot less, in my opinion. And also the heat, man. Honestly, it changes how you feel in the morning. You get up and just feeling the sun on your bones can make you smile. And
exactly.
Don't look outside and it's wet and raining. And freezing cold.
All listeners from the north, from northern countries, let us know how you do it, man. Like, I have no idea how, like, people can live without sun. I get depressed if there's no sun outside.
Yeah, it's a bit depressing. I think they just kind of, like, I don't know, sit inside and just cope. Play video games all day.
Just cope.
Just hang on by a thread.
Just go on a video game set in a tropical island and play that.
That sounds horrifying.
Yeah, I think they have different ways of different things that we don't have in sunny Mediterranean countries. I think one of the things in Denmark, for example, is they have this. I actually forgot the word, but they have a specific word for the coziness and hominess of winter time, and it's actually super important for them as a mechanism to deal with the literally endless winter, because they have like many more months of winter than we usually do, right?
That's true. Like sitting by a fire.
Exactly.
Sitting in the cold
by a fire with a good book and drinking hot chocolate and stuff like that. So they go out of their way to like make it really cozy and comfortable. Whereas in Malta, for example, if it's like last month when we had the coldest day of the year,
13 degrees.
Yeah, something ridiculous like that. And we would all just like stay at home and be like, ugh, fucking hate this shit. This is the worst day of my life.
Yes. It's just miserable.
I saw a drop of rain today.
And it's, I guess they have different. And also those like hot springs and stuff that wouldn't be a thing here.
That'd be nice.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, in the winter they'll probably feel great. I think. Go.
I think that's down to two things from what I can see. Like, one is that you're at one with the elements, which is, there's something really grounding about that, where you're in the snow or in the rain or the lightning, and you just feel a lot closer to.
If you're in the lightning,
something.
You're
you probably get out of that.
Get out the.
Get struck by lightning.
Don't stand by any trees.
Yeah.
But there's something really grounding about that, and it makes you kind of feel. There's just a peace in the chaos of that, I think. But the other thing I was going to say is the level of the amount of bonding that people can do in a struggling time.
Yeah.
I think that struggles actually create the strongest bonds. So that's also another reason that I think in such hardships like they face in Iceland with the snow or the rain or the temperature, I think that also brings people a lot closer, literally for the warmth, but also because they can bond a lot better in those environments. If everyone's boiling hot and standing around in 40 degrees, you're not going to get close to anyone, are you?
I guess so. It's really interesting that whenever people ask like which country is the happiest, it's always one of those northern countries, like way up north.
Yeah, true.
Scandinavia.
Yeah, actually, maybe that's it, because it's so cold. They don't have anything to do but improve the country and actually work on things.
Yeah, probably.
Whereas people in like places like here are too busy enjoying the sun to actually do much work.
What about England?
No excuses.
Yeah, that's true. England's just miserable anyway.
England's got Devon. Come on now.
Yeah.
True.
It's also got London and Birmingham and Hull.
Oh yeah.
And wherever else is shit. Just kidding. Well, maybe not about Birmingham, but
shots fired.
You're gonna get some brummies at your doorstep.
Yeah. That would be agreeing with me.
Yeah, like all those listeners from Birmingham, do you actually like where you live? Why not be a digital nomad?
Shout out Birmingham.
Ollie,
look how far you can you can come from Birmingham to the streets of Malta.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why stop there? We go to any country in the world. Anywhere better than Birmingham.
Birmingham's getting a lot of hate in this episode.
Yeah.
Next episode's on
joking.
Surrey.
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
I've only been there once anyway, so I don't.
Haven't been to either, so I can't compare. I've only heard stories for both Surrey and Birmingham.
Surrey's like doesn't have any big cities really. It's all small villages and towns mostly. I think there's like
an incest.
Dorking or something. Sorry.
Why incest?
Because there's not enough people.
Don't know. Maybe,
I thought you knew a story about like some statue or.
Oh, no.
Incest.
Just guessing. Just a wild guess.
It probably is.
Like they probably like push it back a bit, like second cousin maybe.
Yeah. They don't want to like introduce other, like how royalty used to breed with each other, so they didn't introduce like other families in.
Yep.
Same thing. Sorry.
I'm sure like Birmingham has some appeal. Otherwise there won't be that many people living there, right? Like there has to be some reason to live there.
Well, the first reason I think is because of the Industrial Revolution. Birmingham was a hot spot. Yeah. And the second reason is Peaky Blinders. No, I'm joking. I think that people... It's obviously a nice place in terms... If you're looking for a city vibe, because there's everything you can ask for there, similar to London.
Yeah.
But I'd say it depends on the area, and I haven't lived there for quite a few years now, so I can't really. Maybe it's changed. And I think we've gone way off topic here.
The Birmingham topic.
Yeah, if you're going to be a digital nomad in Birmingham, then just I don't know.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah. Well, I actually know people from Thailand. Like one of my good friends and colleagues from China was from Thailand, and he was absolutely obsessed with going to the UK, and not even to the good parts. like Oh, this is gonna sound really bad. I haven't been to Glasgow. I'm sure it's nice. I've only heard like that there's this thing called like a Glasgow smile, which is what people stop you in the street and shank you and carve out a smile on your face.
What? You want to know how I got these scars?
Yeah. Some Joker shit, yeah. That's the only thing I've heard about Glasgow.
It's the only time you'll see a smile there.
Yeah, yes. So
Dave, a lot of your intrinsic views are coming out in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything further north than London is it's just not acceptable.
Yeah. Unacceptable. Yeah, so there are Asian people, like Southeast Asian people, that have a genuine interest, and I think he's still there, have like a genuine interest to go to places like that, maybe because they're so different that it has some appeal for them.
You know what the problem is? I genuinely think it's Google's fault. Like, if you see, for example, Glasgow in a film and you're like, oh, that's a nice shot, and then you Google it and you Google Glasgow, and then you start seeing all these stone castles and buildings and stuff that just look incredible, and the shots on Google are like best photographers with the best cameras and best editing, and you're like, I've got to go to Glasgow now, laddie. And then you go there and realize maybe it's not.
It's shite.
Glasgow does look quite nice actually, like as a place to visit.
Yeah.
Like the architecture and stuff.
I like that.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying this could apply to anywhere.
Yeah,
like Glasgow is just the
example. It is true. Like every time you Google something, just keep in mind that it's photoshopped to oblivion. There's very few places
Photoshop the sun in the sky.
Yeah, there's very few places that actually look like that. But that's not to say that they look bad in real life. Actually, I think Ollie, for example, when we went to Beijing, when I checked the pictures online, it was nothing like what it was in real life. But what it was in real life was even more impressive at times.
Yeah. I mean, when we went to Beijing, my first impression was, damn, like, what am I doing here? Because all I saw was, at first, was large concrete blocks of flats.
Communism.
Commie block.
But then, as soon as we got off the minibus, I'm not going to say as soon as, but after like a day or two, you start seeing what Beijing really is, and it was just incredible. It literally blew my mind almost every day. Yeah,
exactly. So everything online is basically lies and deception. But I'm sure, like, honestly, every like hotspot in the world, like big cities, they're probably big for a reason. There's probably a reason why people like living there. So I'm sure
London.
That's the one exception.
I'm just joking. I have
probably for work.
Like
the best paid jobs in England are in London. So
but even even so, like if the city was complete ass, like disorganized and ugly, like I don't think people would stay there just for the salary, you know.
Maybe not. They might stay on the outskirts and then just commute in when they have to. I guess that's sort of like a safer digital nomadism. Just, for example, working in London and living in Surrey, let's say. Yeah.
But isn't that just having a... Oh, you mean with not commuting, like still remote?
Yeah, I guess.
No.
But
well, that's only recent though. In the past, you could like, you know, people do it from my village, like work, commute to London to work.
Yeah.
It's doable.
Yeah, so I see that becoming a lot more of a thing. Like, locally within your country, like people within their countries not flocking to the cities anymore as a result of the pandemic. I think that's going to be, I hope it happens sooner rather than later, because it's going to solve so many issues people are having. Like, can you imagine how affordable rent would be if not everybody had to be in London to work in London?
Yeah.
Exactly,
When a a 1-bedroom flat in my village costs £200,000.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit.
I'd say that's pretty standard in England.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's just standard. That seems a lot, really. But maybe it's because I just don't want to live in my village.
Yeah.
You'd have to pay me to live there, not the other way around.
Okay.
It's not that bad. It's just boring. There's just nothing to do there, really.
We get it, Dave.
You
don't like, sorry.
Oh, by the way, it's shit there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop now.
Man, you're worse than me with Bulgaria. Like, at least I mentioned some positives.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be, honestly, my only wish before I die is to see once again single income families being able to afford a house. Like, that's
this is your one wish.
Well, for society, let's say, not
Okay.
for me personally, or my family, because it'll be too late. I would have already grinded my whole life to get a.
Used up all your wishes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for society, yeah, for the betterment of, let's say, like my children's lives. How wild was it that, like, and I don't mean to like diminish any professions, but how wild was it that, like, let's say a janitor or some other generally low paid job used to be enough for people to afford a house in the past, and a decent life.
I mean,
like nothing
it's wild.
fancy, but yeah.
Wild by today's standards, but if you're asking, like, in terms of what I think should be normal, it's not wild at all.
Yeah.
Like, that should be normal.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
A place to live.
Yeah.
If you can't
Housing
build it
being
yourself,
affordable is,
you should be able to buy it. But
should be a thing.
who knows? Maybe none of us will own any property in the future, as we discussed previously, or live off Airbnb.
Or we'll become communist and you won't be able to own anything.
If Airbnb, communism solves this. No. But if Airbnb starts like having places that cost, I don't know, £10 a day instead of 100, then I wouldn't mind. But again, I think with the sort of citification of countries, if you don't have to be in a city to work for a company inside that city, I think it's gonna disrupt a lot of things, not just real estate. Like companies like Airbnb, for example, well, they're sort of linked to real estate, but they would quite quickly go out of business if rent is not, or maybe not. Maybe people will just give out their places for cheap. But things like Uber drivers, like there'll be a lot less need, right? If there's less people that commute to work every morning. Yeah,
and people seem to prefer hotels these days to Airbnbs, from what I'm reading on Twitter.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain.
Exactly. But the other thing I was going to say is that for people who are born in one country and then they're forced to move for work and live in another country, I think this will change. Obviously, hopefully this will change the dynamic for them, because now it means that they'll be able to stay in that country and work for the other country that they would have been working for if they had moved, and get the same salary, which which is obviously
there is an issue there. So Bulgaria's economy actually for the longest time was outsourcing economy. So we would like all of the good paying jobs were actually IT sector jobs where companies would just outsource. Say for example, you have a German company that needs to develop a system and it's too expensive to hire people from Germany to develop it, so they would hire this Bulgarian company for half the price that would hire Bulgarian workers for a quarter of the price to develop that system. So the whole appeal of hiring somebody that's not German, let's say, is because you would get a cheaper Bulgarian to do it, right?
Yeah.
So the business sense is it needs to stay cheap, otherwise it doesn't make sense to give these opportunities outside of your country, because that money is obviously gonna go to Bulgaria, that tax is gonna go to Bulgaria. So unless Germany is making profit by doing this, there's no incentive.
Well, I think you'll still be able to hire cheaper labor, but I think it will just open up the ability to hire more expensive labor in those countries as well.
Yeah.
Whereas right now it's pretty much like if you're going to hire someone, or it used to be, I should say, 2 years ago, if you're going to hire someone in one of those countries, that there would normally always be, because they're cheaper.
Yeah.
So
yeah, if the whole world is competence based, like you hire people based on what they can actually do for you, no matter where they're located, that would be wild. Actually, that is my one wish.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
Like a competence global economy, that would be great.
It's more like who will work for the cheapest rather than who's the most competent, though.
That would likely happen, yeah. Unfortunately. Well, it depends. If people know what's good for their business, they wouldn't hire cheap labor that's incompetent.
Yeah. Wow.
How
many businesses aren't like that?
Yeah. Most companies that I've worked for have done exactly that.
Yeah. Well, at least people would have more flexibility to say no and not like underbid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of good will come out of like the practices of digital nomads and the current like remote working situation. I think it's great. Just as long as people don't just do a 180 switch as soon as the virus is gone. The pandemic is done.
Oh, now that the virus is over.
Yeah.
You're coming back into the office 5 days a week. Yeah, that was stupid.
Yeah. I have a feeling a lot of places would do exactly that, but you know, I think the other way around would prevail eventually.
Yeah, people won't want to go in.
Yeah.
They'll just lose employees if they say to come back in. They'll just quit or start applying. So they've got competition.